Okay, welcome to our New York Giants Preservation Society meeting for tonight, Thursday, June 26th, 2025, with Glen Kuiper. Glenn will be telling us about his career as a broadcaster, sportscaster, what's he doing now, and he'll field questions as we hit the midway point of the baseball season. Glenn might give us some therapy today. A lot of us are upset. Giants stand at 44-37. Before we turn it over to Glenn, I just want to give you some news, what's going on. One of our members, Ron Carner, passed away. I received an email from his wife, so maybe we'll remember him fondly. Rest in peace, Ron. A couple of other things. For Willie Mays, when Willie Mays passed away, on June 18th, I did a YouTube, a live thing, which I never tried before. Somehow I got it to work. I was pretty happy. I think there were like 21 people watching. People were asking questions. So maybe we'll try that again to talk about our group. Try to get some more members. We have a growing group, and why not? So speaking of which, Facebook, we have 3,025 followers, and YouTube, we're approaching 440 subscribers. So good job. Couple of other things. There'll be no meeting next week because of the 4th of July. We will reconvene on July 9th with one of our members talking, Mr. Horowitz, talking about Willie Mays' All-Star appearance as we hit really the All-Star break the following week. Once again, before I turn it over to Glenn, we have somebody here, Damon Gross, going to spend 2 minutes talking about a project he's working on in Arizona. Damon, the floor is yours. You got a couple of minutes, then we're going to
All
turn
right.
the program over to Glenn.
Thank you so much, Gary. Good evening, everyone. So I am a former journalist based in Arizona. I used to work in a town called Casa Grande, and for a time, for 20 years in the 60s and 70s, the Giants trained there. And I am working on a book about that time, and it's called They Were Giants: A Small Town's Unlikely Rise to the Major Leagues. And there's two ways I'm looking at this story. One is you had Horace Stoneham, who had already moved the Giants out west, and they were training in Arizona, and he was looking for a place where he could get out of Phoenix a little bit with the team. And he also had this vision for a resort that, when the team wasn't training there, they would help the team stay competitive because people theoretically would be going to this resort. At the same time, you had the small town of Casa Grande, population of about 8,000 people, looking for its place, thinking it could be something bigger. And they had been trying to get baseball in some capacity, whether it was a major league team or a minor league team, to come there. So they'd been talking to teams. And so the story is that Horace Stoneham was about to build his facility in a town called Wickenburg, which is about 50 miles west of Phoenix. People in Casa Grande heard about it, said, "Hey, why don't you come look down here?" He agreed if they raised $50,000 in 24 hours. They did, and then thus started the building of the facility. And the big question, I think, that is why it didn't work. And the story is that Horace Stoneham was meeting with the governor of Arizona, and at the time, this was 1960. There was the I-10 freeway was being built across country. The Arizona segment wasn't built yet. It was going to go through from Phoenix to Tucson. The governor told Horace Stoneham, "Hey, we're going to build an interstate through that area. It's going to be 5 miles west of Casa Grande. If you build it there, your 9-story tower, your 4 practice fields, your observation tower, the stadium, all the amenities, first class facility, put it there. The people will drive right into the freeway into your resort, and you'll be pushing money around in wheelbarrows." So he says, okay, he builds it there. Well, the freeway was extended 3 years later, but it was built 3 miles east of town. So basically, 8 or 9 miles from the freeway is this resort that's still there. It's still in use. There are remnants of the baseball facility there, And so I'm just talking to people and trying to learn stories about that time. I've talked to Horace Stoneham's granddaughters who've been really helpful. A couple
Well,
players.
Damon, you're looking for anybody in our group who has any information on this to email me and I will forward it to you. Is that correct?
Exactly. Thank you. You said it much better than I would have, Gary. Thank
Okay.
you so
And
much.
Damon, just so you know, when this book comes out, you know you have an audience here, okay?
I would love that. Thank you all for your for
Wonderful. Uh, I would love to turn the show over now to Mr. Glen Kuiper.
Gary,
Glenn,
can I just ask him one quick question before he leaves? Damon?
Mhm. Yes.
go ahead.
Damon, did you speak to Charlie Vassalero? It's Steve.
Oh, yeah, Steve. We're talking on Saturday.
Okay. Good luck to you. We'll see
Thank
you
you.
soon.
Thanks for the connection, Steve.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
it is my pleasure to introduce Glen Kuiper. Glen has a storied career in baseball, mostly with a team he doesn't want to talk about anymore, but he has wonderful things presently going on and on the horizon. He has now been working, not hired by the Giants, but working as, somebody who speaks and knows a hell of a lot about the San Francisco Giants. So why don't we all welcome Glen Kuiper to the New York Giants Preservation Society? And Glenn, before I explain, before you talk, just so you know, we are the New York Giants Preservation
Yep.
Society. That being said, 95% of us still root for the San Francisco Giants or never rooted for any other team. So that is why we asked you to come on. You have great connections and know-how about the present team. So why don't you tell us about yourself for people who don't know and about your great new YouTube channel and what you're doing with your brother. And then I'm sure there's going to be a slew of questions regarding the team. Glen Kuiper, let's give it up again for Glen Kuiper. Glen, the floor is yours.
Gary, thank you very much. When you contacted me, I wasn't, I needed to do some research on you guys. And the more I did and the more I heard what you guys do, I was like, I mean, that's awesome. I mean, this is a group of gentlemen that cheered for the New York Giants a long, long time ago. And now they still cheer for the Giants, even though they've been out here in San Francisco for a long time. So I jumped at the opportunity, and I'm honored that you guys have me on, and you may even listen to me, but I want to listen to you guys too, because it sounds like there's a few stories in this group. I wish I could come on a better day after what was, kind of a brutal series, but I'm sure we'll get to that as well. But yeah, as far as, what I'm all about, Gary, grew up in a sports family. Obviously, my brother Dwayne, who's quite a bit older than me. He's 13 years older than me. He had a terrific big league career, over 10 years as a big league infielder, and now, gosh, 35, 36 years as a broadcaster. So sports has always been, a big deal. Our house there's three boys and we have a sister, and my dad was a fast pitch softball pitcher. He was a star, and, so it just, sports was always going on. And when you grow up where there's snow, like I'm sure many of you gentlemen did, you played baseball in the summer, you played football in the fall, and you played basketball in the wintertime. And then when spring came, you went back to baseball. That's the way we grew up. There was always a sport to play, but our love kind of always centered around baseball. I played a couple years of minor league baseball in 1985 with the St. Louis Cardinals or the Padres organization, 86 with the Cardinals organization. I could tell early on that I probably wasn't going to make it to the next level, but that's all right. It was a wonderful experience. Met a lot of good people, and then came out to San Francisco, finished my school, got a degree in broadcasting, and for about 10, 11 years, I did a lot of work for the Giants, a lot of pregame shows, postgame shows, and that was a lot of fun. Barry Bonds, I was part of that. So I've always, been a Giants fan because, listen, my brother played for them way back in 1982, and then the broadcasting. My brother Jeff is the television producer for the Giants. He's been doing that for over 30 years. So there's a very strong family connection there, and I've always Been a big Giants fan. But I was looking for an opportunity to be a play-by-play announcer. That's sort of where you want to get to in our business for the most part. And the Giants have, even, 20, 25 years ago, they have a pretty good lineup of broadcasters. And I got a job offer from the Oakland A's, very close, right across the bay. I took it. I just wanted to get some play-by-play experience. And it turned out that I was there for 22 years and honed my craft. And, what I think I became a pretty good play-by-play guy. Was let go by the A's. And, since then I've kind of crept back a little bit into the Giants family. And so doing some work for them now. But also I thought a great way to maybe connect with Giants fans again was to start my own YouTube channel. So I've done that. It's called the Glen Kuiper Show, All Giants. It's only been around a couple months, but it has actually surprised me quite a bit at how far it's gone already in 2 months. We've had a lot of success with it, and I think it's growing much quicker than I anticipated, and I think it's going to continue to do that. So that's exciting, and we concentrate on the San Francisco Giants, couple live shows a week. We try to put out a lot of videos. So, gentlemen, if you're bored and you want some Giants information, which I'm sure you guys know most of it, but feel free to check it out. Again, it's on YouTube. It's my YouTube channel called the Glen Kuiper Show, All Giants.
I will resend that link to everybody. And
please.
Glenn, just so you know, we have some very dedicated female New York and San Francisco who are here tonight. So when you say men, I hope you ladies are not offended. Okay.
Yeah, I should know better. I apologize. But and then every Friday night home game at Oracle Park, my brother Dwayne and I, we do a post-game show in front of a live audience out at the Gotham Club, which is the restaurant bar out in right field. That's been awesome. Packed house every Friday night, home game. We bring guests in, maybe 45 minutes to an hour, tell baseball stories. The people really enjoy it. So that's been a lot of fun. And Gary, the thing that's been fun with that is it's, Dwayne and I have been in the same business for a long time. And I did a lot of stuff with the Giants pregame shows when he was doing play-by-play, but we've never done something together, just he and I. And that's what this post-game show is. It's called Friday Night Kipes. The two of us host it. And so that's been fun. So I'm involved with the Giants to a certain extent. I would love to do more. But those decisions are not mine. They're other people's. So, but we'll keep cranking away and keep pulling for the orange and black.
Do you feel your career is back on the right track?
Yeah. I mean, it's different. I miss calling games. Once you call games, you and then you all of a sudden in my case, kind of abruptly stop doing it. Yeah, you miss it. I do. I hope I get a chance to do it again. I don't know if I will. We'll see. But I did feel like, listen, I'm going to start doing some other stuff, media related. There's so many things you can do now, Gary, as you know, with, like I said, YouTube, and there's so many different ways you can go with this. So yeah, I would say, I wouldn't say it's fully on track again. And you know what, as far as play-by-play, it may never be. I don't know that, but we'll keep trying. But this stuff is fun. I'm my own boss. I can say what I want. I can do a show whenever I want, and that's kind of fun. And I've enjoyed that. But I do like being at the ballpark. And I do hope to get a chance to announce again sometime. But again, we'll just see if that works out.
And for all of you ladies and gentlemen out there, I have frequented Glenn's show. It's fabulous. Great Giant insights. I mean, you would think he's been, following the Giants forever and didn't, work across the bay. But I've gone on. I've either been on there live or I've watched the YouTube channel. Once it's up there, it's a great listen, and he's so knowledgeable about the Giants. And this is another way, and a lot of us in the 60s and 70s couldn't get anything Giants. Here you have it right at your fingertips. And Glenn really does a great job with it. So,
Thanks, Gary. I appreciate that.
and
Hey,
I also, when I went to Yankee Stadium in April,
mhm.
Steve Rivetria, who
Yeah,
runs the Gotham Club, he said, we're having this show with the two Kuiper brothers, you know.
yeah,
You got to be able to hear this, which I don't think is recorded, but I was privy to hear about this stuff. So
yeah.
I knew it was coming, and that's a great thing if you're, in San Francisco
Yeah,
and can
and we're
get to
trying.
the
You know what,
Gotham Club.
Gary? We're working on getting the audio out if we can. It's not recorded from a video standpoint. It's really done for the live audience. It's and the Gotham Club members. But we're working on maybe getting the audio out. On a YouTube channel, which I think would be fun. And really, Steven deserves a lot of credit. Steven. He's a terrific guy.
Yes.
But we approached him knowing that he's in charge of the Gotham Club with this idea, and he was all for it really right from the get-go. And we all needed to check with, some of the other Giants people, Larry Bear, and just to make sure that everybody was good with this. But it was really Steven who said, I like this idea. Let's figure out a way to do this. So really, Steven with the okay from Larry Bear and the other higher up members of the Giants front office, they gave us the okay. So it's been fun, and I think people like it. We're trying to figure out a way to how can we maybe make this bigger. But right now it's every Friday night home game. So but it's been great. It's all good. We have a lot of fun.
So I just got a sibling question for you.
Yeah.
My brother's no longer alive. He was a couple of years older than me. I always felt like I had to take a back seat to him. How do you feel working with your brother?
Well, you know what? I've had people ask me that before, and honestly, Gary, I mean, he's 13 years older than me, so he's always been kind of almost like a second dad. You know what I mean? Kind of the guy in between my dad and I, and my dad who's no longer with us, but I mean, he was a wonderful guy. I mean, just a terrific dad. But growing up, because he was so much older than me, I didn't really know him, right? I mean, true story. If you think about the age difference, when he went to college, I went to kindergarten. So if you just think about that, right, that's a huge. So I don't remember being in the house with him, or what I remember is him coming home from college, which was a big deal. So I've always looked up to him. He's always been kind of I don't want to say hero. That's not, but I've always looked up to him a lot. He's a great guy. And, listen, when you're in high school, Gary, and I was an athlete in high school, played all three sports. But when you're in high school and your older brother is the captain of a Major League Baseball team, that's a big deal, right?
Absolutely.
So I knew it was a big deal. And it was fun. It probably got me more attention than most kids, good or bad. But then as we grew older, no, I've never once in my life been envious of him or felt second fiddle. I mean, I understand that I'm Dwayne Kuiper's younger brother, but I always say, you know what? That doesn't bother. That's not a bad thing.
Right.
If Dwayne was a jerk and wasn't good at what he did, and then it would be different. But he's great. He's class act all around. So I'm honestly, I'm proud that he's my brother, and here's a guy that may get into the Hall of Fame as a broadcaster someday. So part of me looks up to him, but now we become much, much closer brothers and friends, because as you get older, that age gap kind of shrinks. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
But we're tight. I mean, we meet and have coffee, 3 times a week, because we live fairly close to each other, and we talk baseball. We talk about the Giants, just like you guys do. No, I've never once 1 minute of my life been envious of him. No, that doesn't feel right to me.
All right. Usually I'm the one asking the questions at the beginning, but since I asked these few here, I will save my giant questions for somewhere in the middle. Mars, you're up. Unmute, Mars.
Okay.
Mars,
Glenn,
before, 1 second, Mars. before anybody speaks, tell Glenn where you are so he gets kind of a gist of where people are
What a-
calling from.
All right. Well, Glenn, I'm originally born and raised in Upper Manhattan, just 3 miles north of the Polo Grounds. And I've been a Giants fan all throughout, like some of us that watched them play in the Polo Grounds. I have something that relates to just what you're talking about your older brother.
Yeah.
My uncle Julie was 9 years younger to the day than my pop. So he told me that my pop used to take him to the Polo Grounds, and then my uncle Julie was a little small enough to sneak under the turnstiles.
That's all right.
The question I like to ask you, Glenn, is do you feel that Bud Selick turned a cheek on steroids after the '94 strikes to put butts back in the seats?
Yeah, that's a tough question because you know what, I like Bud Selig. I mean, I like him as a human being. He did a lot of good things. I would probably though have to answer you by saying, yeah, I think he did. I think this is going to sound strange. I think his intentions were right because he knew baseball needed something to get fans interested again after the strike. And home runs started to go and people started to like home runs. And then you got Sosa and you got McGuire and people are totally into it. And yeah, so I think he did. But I think he did it with the thought of, I need to get this game back on track. You know, so my thought about it is he was maybe in a little bit of a tough spot because the game was hurting at that point. He needed people to get interested again. He saw what was happening with home runs and these guys hitting, you know, home runs everywhere and how the fans were loving it and they were back into baseball. So again, yes, I think he did. I also think he was in a very difficult spot trying to get this game back on track.
Thank you, Glenn.
And Mars, you know what? Is it MARS? Is that how it's spelled?
Yeah, my given name is Martin, but I had the nickname because of the unorthodox way I drop kicked the football in high school.
That sounds like
So
Mars, I got to ask you something, Mars.
Sure.
Glenn did games at the Coliseum there.
Yeah.
Ricky Henderson Field. Where's your question that you ask everybody?
Well, yeah, you know, like
Go ahead and ask him because he was at Ricky Henderson Field.
Oh yeah.
Well, thank you for bringing that up, Gary. You know, the precedent was Ricky Henderson Field at the Oakland Coliseum or whatever it was called. And I've been fighting on deaf ears to Larry Baer and company to have Willie Mays Field at Oracle Park as a last homage. But he ignores me. And I have a charter seat license and I see him. I even wear a Willie Mays Field t-shirt that I had made up. And he ignored me. I took part in Nelson George's Say Hey Willie Mays, and I confronted him there and he ignored me again, you know, and then we had him on a Zoom meeting a couple of years ago and during spring training. And I had him pinned down. I asked him about that, and he said, "Well, we have Willie Mays Plaza, we have the statue, you know, and you know, and of course, this is before Willie passed. So now that Willie has left us, but not in spirit, I figured it would be the last homage, and it wouldn't be changing the name of Oracle Park. And after all, Larry Ellison defected and went to Texas, and now he's in Tennessee.
Well,
but it's all about the money.
Yeah, I would say this, Mars. I mean, you know, I understand what you're saying, but I think you need to remember, they made the address of the ballpark 24 Willie Mays Plaza. So we're not just talking about, hey, there's the statue in the plaza. No, the address of the ballpark is 24 Willie Mays Pezza. That,
But
to
here's the
me-
thing. Here's the thing. A hologram of the 54 catch, since the Willie Mays Trophy is the World Series trophy. A hologram. You don't have to etch it in concrete. You just have Willie Mays Field, just like there was they didn't put that in concrete at the Oakland Coliseum. You know, it's just the last homage. That's all I feel, and probably a lot of people feel the same.
Thanks, Mars, for your editorial.
Okay.
Steve, you are up.
Hi, I'm Steve Rothschild. Actually
Hi,
grew
Steve.
up probably less than a mile from the previous speaker. Went to the same high school. I graduated 1 year ahead of him. Did not know him, but like him, my first experience was at the Polo Grounds with my uncle in 1955, and the disease has continued since then. Sometimes I say to myself, why? Like after these 3 games, and we spoke earlier about whether he was hit intentionally and all that other nonsense. But you have a bunch here that go back to those days. My question is a little bit different. You must have had the opportunity to interview a lot of the big names, like the Big Five: Marichal, Cepeda, Mays, McCovey, Gaylord Perry. Just one, which was probably your best interview and the most exciting in your,
You know what? I don't in my memory, I met all of those gentlemen, which is a thrill in itself.
Okay.
I don't know that I ever sat down with a full scale interview. I mean, those guys, they were pretty well insulated as far as protecting them from too many people saying, "Hey, Willie McCovey or Willie, we want to interview you." I mean, the Giants did a good job of getting those guys out, but also just protecting them a little bit. But I will say this: I've met them all, and that's a thrill in itself. And I always tell this story. I think I was working for the A's at the time, and the A's were playing in San Francisco. This was maybe 10, 12 years ago. And I walked into Mike Murphy's office. Mike Murphy, the longtime, the long clubhouse manager for the A's. He was very tight with Willie. And Willie was sitting in his office. And I walked in there to say hi to Murph, and Willie was in there. I was like, whoa. And I said, "Hi, Mr. Mays, I'm Glen Kuiper." And he said, and I'll never forget, he said, "Oh, I know who you are." And that was it. I was like, I didn't know what to say. I said, "Well, thank you, Mr. Mays. It's great to see you." And then I just walked out. I was, the fact that Willie Mays actually knew who I was, even though at that point I was not working with the Giants. Willie McCovey was always just a very sweet man, quiet. Orlando was always friendly and upbeat. And, Marichal's a real classy guy, right? Had a lot of just debonair. And I always liked that about Juan Marichal. I haven't seen him in a while. And even Gaylord Perry, I talked to Gaylord in spring training a couple years ago because my brother Dwayne, when he first got to the big leagues, Gaylord was there. And Gaylord was very intimidating, and Gaylord was tough. And I remember asking him some fun questions, and he was great. So, it's almost more fun just kind of meeting these guys casually as opposed to sitting down with a formal interview. But those guys, they were around the ballpark a lot. Unfortunately, we've lost, most of them. But just looking at those guys, and then you start thinking about what they did and what they've accomplished and what they've been through, and what like Orlando and Juan Marichal, the Latin players, what they've been through to get to the big leagues, and what Willie Mays and Willie McCovey, as black players, what they had to do to get to the big. You start looking at just the whole big picture of these guys, and they become larger than life, even though you're standing right next to them.
Well,
that was always kind of intriguing to me.
While you're talking, it's interesting because I'm looking at Gary, and Gary and I had that same experience. It's a long story, which we're not going to go into. We were in the clubhouse with Murphy, and it was Willie Mays' biggest live signed baseballs for us, among other people. In my background, I've had the opportunity to meet every one of them too, in various ways. I had lunch with Orlando Cepeda. I was in Willie Mays' apartment in Riverdale. I met McCovey numerous times at spring training. Gaylord Perry was always very visible. On Marichal, I met in Cooperstown and got his autograph, which we don't want to talk about, Gary. but I took it away from Gary. That's another story. But thank you for being on. And
no, and I appreciate it. And I want to tell a story about, for you two gentlemen, since it sounds like you grew up very, very close to the polo grounds.
3 miles.
Yeah, and you hear so much about the polo grounds, and I always said, and my brother and I talk a lot about this. Wouldn't it be fun to be able to go back? If you could just say, give me a week, let me go back in time, and I want to watch a baseball game at the polo grounds. I want to go to Ebbets Field. I want, I want to see these. I want to go to St. Louis, Sportsman's Park. You know what I mean? I think about how much fun that would be.
Oh, absolutely.
Because it's really, you just think about it. But we were in New York, maybe 6-7 years ago. Staying in Midtown Manhattan. Get on the bus, and you're going to Yankee Stadium, and for some reason there was traffic or something, and that reason we took. And correct me if my geography is wrong about Manhattan and all that, but. So we to go to Yankee Stadium, we actually went. That would be the Upper West Side.
You're heading north.
The road, the road that goes right along the Hudson River there, right? For some reason,
Henry Hudson Parkway.
Yeah. We took that way all the way up, and then and I was looking at my phone, my map, because I was like, I think we're close to where the polo grounds were. And I was like, oh, this is, and then we turned, and we were on a main street that led to a bridge that went over to Yankee Stadium.
Right, McCombs Dam Bridge.
Yeah, and we were talking about it on the team bus, and somebody said, you know what? The polo grounds were right there.
Yep. Like 3/4 of a mile.
Yeah, just a little ways away. And then I saw like kind of a little sign or something that said that walkway that you could walk, the stairwell that you took down to the stadium,
stairway, yeah,
which is still there, I believe, right?
It is.
Yeah, it's renovated.
Yeah, and it said it's right. There was an arrow point or something, like a sign that said, and I was like, wow, this is right here. This is where it was. And I'm working for the A's, but I'm more excited about I'm seeing where the old Giants ballpark was. So I stuck my head against the window, and I kind of imagined. I know there's big apartments there now or whatever, but I kind of imagined that it was tucked down low in the ground a little bit, and so I at least saw where it was, and I could kind of imagine what it may have been like. But so I was close, you guys. I may have gone right past your house, who knows? But we were close.
You get credit.
Yes, yeah, I was in the area. Put it that way.
Glenn, if you're ever in New York, I will take you on a tour. I promise.
Oh man, that would
There
be
is.
awesome. Yeah.
We've done it. John Miller joined us a couple of years ago.
Did you really?
Yeah,
So
he had a wonderful time.
So that bridge that's still there, did that just go right down to like the ticket offices or the entrance to the polo ground?
The stairway did.
Yeah.
The bridge connects
Manhattan and the Bronx.
Manhattan and
I meant to say the stair, not the bridge. I meant the stairs that you just walk down the hill and
you cross the street. Now the street is called Willie Mays Driveway.
Is it really?
It. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Yeah.
All right, Ed Freer, you're up.
I'm a Giants fan from the Polo Grounds since 1954.
Hi, Ed. How are you?
Pretty good, thank you. Very nice of you to join us. I have a little more contemporary question, though. When did it happen with relief pitching, and this applies to the Giants and other teams, that when the eighth inning pitcher is doing an excellent job, in fact, maybe gets everybody out, that they have to bring in the closer? When did that start, and will it ever change?
Well, I don't know that it had an actual start date. I know Tony La Russa was probably the first manager who really set up seventh inning guy, eighth inning guy, ninth inning guy. And it worked for him because he had Eckersley, right? And he had, some good relievers before him. I think now, Gary, is that I think because relievers are used a lot now, more than they were 25, 30 years ago, and 50 years ago, you had 4 relievers on your team, right? But I think now, because relievers are used so often, and a manager has to think about, well, I need this guy tomorrow too. And if I throw him 1 inning tonight, I'll still have him tomorrow. If I throw him 2 innings tonight, I may not have him tomorrow. Now, I don't know that that's right or wrong, but I do think that a manager's job now is very like looking a game or two ahead as well, especially with the bullpen. But now, I mean, yeah, the closer. I think it starts with the closer being. He's always going to pitch the ninth inning. Occasionally, he'll come in the eighth and get a big out or something like that. But yeah, it's pretty structured now. It definitely is.
Had so many games where they've blown the ninth inning sometimes.
Yeah. But I do think they want their guys to be available the next day as well. And I think for the most part it works. I mean, the Giants bullpen's been pretty good this year. Compared to other bullpens, it's a pretty good group. But I'm with you, Gary. You tend to remember the games that got away from you. But I think all in all, they're in pretty good shape with their bullpen. But there's going to be a hiccup once in a while.
Thank you. I guess the 1/3 of an inning would be too much.
All right, I'm gonna interject my question now. Glenn, I want you to answer this. Giants are 44-37. We're at the halfway mark. Unfortunately, this is a bad series. I thought if you double the one half and we talking about 90 wins.
Yeah.
Give me the good, the bad, and the ugly, and tell me what positions we need to upgrade.
That's fair. In fact, I'm going to do a show soon after I'm done with you guys at 7:00 tonight here in California. So it'll be 10:00 by you. Feel free to check it out. But I'm going to talk a lot about that. So we're halfway through, right? And I'm going to look at, what are some of the win totals of the wild card teams the last 3 years, just to kind of give Giants fans maybe an idea of what number in the win column you're probably going to need to get to be a wild card team. I found today to be this series, is probably the most frustrated and maybe concerned that I've been all year with the Giants. To me, it all goes back to they have to be, and this is going to sound simple, Gary, but to me, it's the biggest issue is they have to be better with runners in scoring position. I know we've talked about it, a lot. I look at the numbers a lot. The coming into today, Gary, they're 20th in the major leagues in batting average with runners in scoring position. It's 240. But another area is as far as, total at bats with runners in scoring position, which means, how many opportunities are you giving your hitters? They're 25th in that area in Major League Baseball. So to me, it's twofold. They're not getting enough action on the bases. And then when they do, their at-bats are not great. So if they're going to get into the postseason, if they're going to win 90 games, that area needs to be better.
Do they have the hitters capable of doing that?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Devers thing's going to help a lot. And listen, no one guy in baseball can be a savior, but Devers is really good. You guys have seen it,
Terrific.
for 6 years. He's a terrific hitter. He's exactly what they need. So yeah, he will help. But even that, and this goes to what I'm talking about, Gary. Devers has played 9 games with the Giants. Okay. He only has 5 at-bats with runners in scoring position in those 9 games. So that's the guy you want to have guys on base when he comes up. But see, that's my point. They're not getting enough action on the bases, first of all. And then when they do, they haven't been great with runners in scoring position. So it's sort of twofold. I think Adames will be better. He's always been a second half hitter. I know it's frustrating to watch him, but he has been better lately. And if you look at his career numbers, he's always been significantly better in the second half. We'll see. Jung-Hoo Lee is in a big slump. He's 4 for his last 39. That's not getting it done. So he needs to get going. So, as far as is what area can they improve on? That's it. More action on the bases and better with runners in scoring position. You don't have to take a huge leap, but you need to show some improvement in that area in the second half. Now I'm a little concerned about the rotation. Webb's great. Ray is great. Verlander, listen, he's gone 12 starts without a win. I don't think he's been horrible, but he hasn't had a win yet.
What does Verlander and Ross Stripling have in common?
Well, yeah, I know.
No, you know what it is?
But I think there's also been 3 games where Verlander has pitched extremely well. Bullpen's given it away. But I don't listen. I think in watching Verlander now, his stuff is decent. It's not great. But he is still, I'm not going to give up on this guy because there's something in here too. You don't win 262. So I'm not going to give up on that. I'm a little bit more worried about, the Birdsong kid today. All of a sudden, he doesn't look right. His velocity's down. So that's a concern. So if you're talking about what do we need? Well, you're going to watch closely in the next 3 to 4 weeks, and maybe they need another starting pitcher. Maybe not an ace, not a guy you're going to have to give up a bunch of people for, but maybe you can get a 4th starter, maybe for cheap. Because you do have 2 studs at the top, which is important. I wouldn't mind seeing him maybe get maybe a veteran right-handed hitter for the outfield. Not necessarily play every day, but to maybe rest Yaz or rest Lee, or just now we're talking now about maybe bench players, or how can you just marginally improve your team? I don't see them making a huge deal. They made it the biggest deal of the year so far. To give you a long answer, I apologize for that, but you got to be a little better situationally offensively. And you got to keep a close eye on this rotation now and make sure these young kids are okay. But I think everybody's got to step up a little bit, because you got your big hitter, you got Devers, and he is going to be really, really good. You saw it today. He looked really good, a single, a double, a homer today. So you got your big guy. Now let's get some guys going around him. And if that happens, then I think that they will improve. But they have to do. If they don't do that, Gary, I think it's going to be difficult for them to get to 90 wins, because basically the last 2 months they've played 500 baseball.
Yeah.
So they need to go up to another level if they're going to get to 90 wins.
Listen, I know you hear people with wacky trade proposals and this and that. I'm going to throw 2 names at you who I think are gettable. I don't know if you think they're good enough.
All right.
We need a backup catcher. How about trying to acquire Travis d'Arnaud and Kyle Hendricks from the Angels? They're out of it.
Yeah, Hendricks has actually pitched pretty well from what I've seen, right? And d'Arnaud is, and I thought they may look at d'Arnaud a little bit in the offseason, and maybe they did. They did. Yeah, I think that's an excellent, because from what I've seen from d'Arnaud, and he's been around a long time. I know you guys saw him with the Mets a lot. He's a pretty good defensive catcher too.
Clutch hitter on the Braves. When he's on the Braves, he had big hits.
Yeah, so I think that's a good idea. Bailey, it's so tough with Patrick Bailey because he is really, really valuable behind home plate. But it's tough to watch sometimes his at bats, and I feel bad for the kid. But he is valuable behind the plate, and we have to really take that into consideration. But I think that's, if you could get a veteran, 4th or 5th starter, I would have no problem with that. I really wouldn't. And I don't think it's out of the question. If that rotation wobbles a little bit because of the young guys, I don't think getting somebody like a Hendricks is or somebody in that fold, kind of where it's not going to cost you a lot.
Right.
Absolutely. I think it's definitely something to think about.
Thanks, Glenn.
Yeah.
Bill Clank, you're up.
Thank you very much, Gary, and Glenn, thank you for a really great analysis of where the Giants need to move. You were very concise in that, And I'm going to give you, well, let me see this. You, on your call-in shows, your talk shows, you get some calls I know that are kind of out of left field.
Sure.
I'll give you an
Absolutely.
out of left field question. It happens to be a personal out of left field question. The A's are obviously only, treading water for a short period of time in Sacramento. And when teams make changes, that is, they move from, one place to another. We saw it in Washington when Ron Manchin was let go by Bob Short when they moved to Texas. And I'm not trying to kick anyone out of the booth up there in Sacramento, but had you ever thought, and I'm kind of stepping in as your agent here, had you ever thought about in 28 getting a fresh start in Las Vegas? If you do, I got a guy that would be wonderful. You know him, who would be paired up with you, the 13-time Nevada Las Vegas Sportscaster of the Year, Russ Langer, who you know, I'm sure.
Yeah, I've heard. Yeah, I know that name. Yes. I
Yeah,
do.
Russ is a great announcer. He's a guy that knows minor league baseball. He knows Vegas very well, obviously. I don't know if you'd ever thought about that kind of a position. That's a fresh start, and boy, I'll tell you, I'd love to hear you on the broadcast because I know when they go to Vegas, they'll be broadcasting loud and clear down here to Phoenix. I'm in Phoenix.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, listen. Here's the deal with that. The change in location, what you're talking about, is great, right? Las Vegas, but I would say the problem with that is it's still the same team run by the same people.
Okay.
And those were the people that gave the okay for NBC to let me go. So I'm not sure they're gonna jump at taking me back, even though I felt like I did a pretty good job there for 22 years and I had a good relationship with everybody. So would I do it? Yeah, probably. I mean, I'd love to announce again, but will that happen with that organization? My guess is probably not, which is too bad because I don't,
Will NBC still be calling the shots when they move to Vegas?
That's a good question. I'm not sure about that. I don't know. You know what? But that's a fair question.
Love to hear you down here.
My
loud
guess
and
would be
clear.
maybe not. But I don't know enough about that part of who's going to be their rights holder in Las Vegas in 28 or 29.
28, yeah.
But yeah, you know what? Who knows, right? Who knows? But for whatever reason, even after being with the A's for almost 22 years, and having a really good relationship with everybody there. I mean, I had no problems with anybody. Nobody from them has ever called me or talked to me, or nobody in uniform, nobody in the front office, none of my old bosses. So hey, that
3 years is a long time. Who knows what'll be happening
on
their
not a
table
terrible
there.
idea, but I appreciate your
Thanks,
support.
Bill.
You're welcome.
John Hopkins, you're up.
Hello, Glenn.
Hey, John, how are you?
I'm well, thank you. I'm here in Phoenix also and been a Giant fan since I was in diapers. Mom used to collect the milk bottles to go to Seal Stadium in San Francisco. Grew up in Sunnyvale. I've got 3 moments that live with me as a fan.
Okay.
I was at the game where Mays got number 3,000. I was at a game where Will Clark got a single up the middle against Wild Thing.
Yeah, I was there.
Playing the Cubs.
I was
in
there.
the playoffs.
Where were you sitting?
I was sitting in the outfield, about underneath the scoreboard.
Okay. Yeah, I was working for the scoreboard that time. I was in college, and I worked every game. I was like the statistician for the scoreboard. So we were up in that like football press box, down the left field line. So yeah, I remember that well.
Then for the Ishikawa home run, I got there late, and it was one of those empty handicap seats right on the foul pole and left, and he hit it to right. But I was near the Ghirardelli thing, so I was pretty happy. Um, but what I wanted to ask you is not so much as an announcer, but as a fan, maybe from your childhood and games you were at. What three games, are your memories? Because that's what makes baseball, I think, great for me.
Oh man, I mean, I don't know that I can zero in on a game, but childhood memories. We grew up in Wisconsin, so we were going to County Stadium, which that's the first ballpark, obviously, that I remember, and I remember the smell. It smelled like hot dogs, But you know what's funny is I'll give you guys a good story because you guys are all historians, I can tell. And I want to see if you guys remember this. But I remember the first major league game I ever went to. Okay. And I don't remember the year. It was maybe 68, 60, 67, 68, 69, one of those. And I went to a game at County Stadium. But now I know you're thinking, wait a minute, the Brewers weren't there yet and the Braves were gone. Well, what Major League Baseball did for, I think, a couple years to kind of satisfy the people in Milwaukee, and you guys can look this up, the White Sox actually played a couple series at County Stadium in Milwaukee, regular season games, and just to kind of, appease the people in Milwaukee. And I remember going, and I remember the White Sox were playing, and they had really ugly uniforms, not those ones in the 70s, but they had ugly because they wore white stirrups with black sanitaries. Now you guys know all about the stirrup sanitary thing, right? Well, think about black sanitaries and white stirrups. And I remember sitting there thinking, well, that's not a great look. But so the first game I was into, it was a White Sox game played at County Stadium in Milwaukee. And again, maybe 68, 69, they did that for a couple years. So I remember that. And I was, maybe 6, 7 years old. So that, at least I can say I remember the first major league game that I ever went to. But when my brother was with the then Cleveland Indians, he was with them from 74 to 80. And they would come into Milwaukee to play the Brewers. And it was a really big deal. I mean, it was a family affair. And, we sat right in the front row next to the Cleveland dugout. And, it was a big deal. And that's just like a really cool memory because my mom and dad and aunts and uncles and, oh my gosh, everybody was there and everybody wanted to come. And people would be calling the house for tickets and relatives. And my dad had to divvy out the tickets, and people, relatives would get mad at him because they let somebody else go and they didn't get to go. Oh my gosh. So stuff like that was a great way to grow up. And if you're 15, 16, 17 years old and you're going to a big league game that your brother's playing in, that's hard to replace. You don't forget about those kind of memories. So as far as individual games, not as much as just kind of the way things were, back when I was a kid. And that's like you guys, that's where you fall in love with baseball because of the game, but there's something about the ballpark and the stadiums too that you remember. I remember, when I got to be a teenager, I would go to Cleveland for a week on my own, fly there, and I would stay with my brother and be there for a homestand for the Indians and go to the ballpark with him, put a uniform on, work out before, and then they would start the game. I would go in the clubhouse, shower, go out, and sit and watch the game. And I'm 16 years old and I'm all by myself. And I had just worked out in a major league, so things like that, are what I remember. And I like the fact that a lot of it is childhood things, and that's where the love of the game comes in.
Thanks, John. Harvey,
you.
you're up.
Glenn, thanks for joining us.
Hi, Harvey.
I'm in New York. I'm a lifelong Giants fan. Saw my first game July 10th, 1954.
Okay.
You do the arithmetic.
Mays had a good year that year, didn't he?
Willie was terrific. He was young, playing center field. We had great seats that day. And if you do the arithmetic, I'm going to be 80 in a couple of months. I was 8 years and 10 months old when I saw my first game.
Wow.
We lived in the Bronx, and your geography is pretty close to correct. My dad used to park his car on the Bronx side of the Harlem River. We would walk across the McCombs Dam Bridge, walk down a huge flight of stairs to the Polo Grounds.
That's great.
That's my trip back memory lane. That game, Willie made a great catch in center field. Stole home, but the official scorer said he scored on an error by the pitcher. That was nonsense. My dad scored it as a stolen base, and that's what Willie did, and that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. I want you to think back to a wonderful year for the San Francisco Giants, 2010.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I guess you were working for the A's then?
Yeah.
But your brother spontaneously came up with a phrase that turned out to be almost a battle cry for the Giants.
Yeah, still is.
Well, but in 2010, I know how it ends in 2010. I'm not sure how it's going to end this year.
That's true.
When he said he would finish a game, he would wrap it up, and he would go, torture.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about that. Tell us, you must have talked to him about that.
Well, yeah, I mean, but the reality is he just, sometimes the best announcer lines or best announcer calls are the most spontaneous ones. And I think, that year, as you guys remember, and you know what, I watched the Giants very closely the whole time I was with the A's. That's just the way I was. I mean, I was still a fan of the Giants. But I mean, and there came a time in the season where, I think everybody was kind of going, geez, I don't know if I can take it. Every game is close. and I think the fans felt that way. And Dwayne felt that way. And so did Mike. And so did the announcers. And I think he just said the way he felt, right? And it just so happened to be, that's the way every other fan felt too. And the word fit. He didn't think about it. He wasn't trying to find this catch word that fits the whole season. I think this is the way I feel. This is torture, right? And everybody said, yep, I know what you're saying. And it stuck. And, 15 years later, it's being brought back now a little bit. But you're right, that season, it was torture. But it did end correctly.
It ended wonderfully.
And I think now, the only thing that concerns me is I think it's more difficult now to win a World Series than ever, right? You got a wild card, you got an extra series, you got, there's a lot. You have a better chance to get in, but you got to win 3 series to get to the World Series. If you're a wild card team. So, and this year there's a lot of good teams. The National League is clearly stronger than the American League. Doesn't mean they're going to win the World Series, but so yeah, it's been one of those years where there's been torture with wins, and there's been frustration this year, with the offense, and you feel like there should be more. But it was just a word that Dwayne threw out there. I think he really did indeed feel that way, and believe it or not, it stuck. It's amazing how things can stick and hold on, and now it's coming back, which I don't know if that's a good thing or not, but we'll all survive it, I think.
We will. Thanks, Glenn.
All right. Thank you.
Glenn, how are you for time? You still got some time?
Yeah, I can take a couple more questions. I'd love it.
Richard, go ahead.
Hi, Glenn.
Hi, Richard.
I live in New Orleans, and I want to take you back to 1984.
Wow.
Right.
Let's go. Oh, he froze up.
Richard, you there? Go ahead, Richard. You froze for a second.
I wanted to take you back to 1984 at the University of New Orleans.
Let's go.
Yeah. So how was it with that team?
Well, it was fun. Yeah, it was. I mean, listen, they hadn't been to the College World Series before, and they haven't been since.
Right.
And I don't know where that program's at now. I don't know if it's, I know that the school itself had some struggles with the flooding and stuff, but it was super fun because we had good players and stuff, but we kind of shocked the world a little bit.
Absolutely, yeah.
I'm really good friends with Will Clark. He works for the Giants. I see him a lot, and I still tease him. And I wasn't playing a lot when the regionals happened, but we went up to Mississippi State with Will Clark and Rafael Palmeiro and Jeff Brantley and
Bobby
Thigpen, and those were their star players, but they had good players at every position. And we went up there and we won the regional, and we had to beat Mississippi State, and we did. And that regional had, North Carolina with BJ Surhoff and Walt Weiss, and they had South Carolina, and so we did kind of shock the world, and that was exciting. And I remember going to the College World Series in Omaha. And
well, UNO is the first Louisiana college to make the World Series.
Really?
Before LSU started its run. Yeah.
Well, and it's funny because when I was there, I think I was there my junior year and my senior year, and I think those were the first years of Skip Bertman. Does that sound about right? Yeah,
I think that's correct. Yeah.
So he hadn't turned it around yet, but soon after that he did.
So how did you get recruited to New Orleans? Through Maestri?
Yeah. I was. I went to junior college in Iowa at Indian Hills Community College, and he had a
sort of a pipeline.
He had a pipeline. He did. He liked, because Mace, Midwest guy, right, from Chicago, and Indian Hills still has a terrific program, a lot of really good players. So I think Mace liked getting some Midwest kids.
Yeah.
So I knew that a little bit, and I wanted to go down south and be able to play. And
so there were some pretty good players in that team. Jimmy Bollinger.
Yeah, Jimmy.
Wally Whitehurst.
And Jimmy was the shortstop, and then he made it to the major leagues as a pitcher.
Yeah.
And Wally was great. It was a good team. And I spent 2 years down there, and I didn't play as well as I had hoped when I was down there. I put a lot of pressure on myself because I felt like, I really wanted to play pro ball, and but it was a great experience down there. And hey, you know what? I always tell people New Orleans is probably not a great place to go for a 20-year-old who has his school paid for. So you got to be a little bit careful.
Exactly.
But it was a really good experience. And I don't see those guys, the teammates. I mean, it's been a long time. But I hope they're all doing great. It was a good group of guys.
Great.
And I know Mace is still involved with baseball down there. I don't know if he's still at the university or not, but
not really. But
no.
the program is struggling right now.
That's too bad.
They're having some financial difficulties. I think the school is in general. So unlike a lot of other schools,
Yeah, that's great. Thanks for
Thank you, Richard.
Yeah, thank you.
Renee, did you have your hand up? No, you didn't. Okay, I'm going to ask another question. First of all, Glenn, I failed to tell you, I am 64.
Yeah.
My first game was I became a Giant fan in 1969.
Yeah.
San Francisco, not New York, because they are already moved.
Yeah.
My first game I saw was in 69. That's how I became a Giant fan. Because my dad, Juan Marichal, pitched 14 innings.
No big deal, right?
No big deal. Gave up a home run to Tommy Agee in the 14th. Giants lost 1-0.
Really?
Great game. That's how I became a fan. I have one last question for you regarding the team now.
Yeah.
Whisenhunt, if he's ready to come up, do you see him going into the rotation? And I love having the young guys in the rotation, but I was super impressed with Birdsong in the bullpen.
That's true.
Is that a chance that Whisenhunt comes up, Birdsong goes back to the pen just to maybe straight? I don't know.
Maybe. Yeah. I mean, listen, if Birdsong, if he hits the skids here a little bit, loses some confidence. Yeah, I actually I could see that happening because he was pretty good out of the bullpen.
He was. I thought he was terrific.
Yeah,
I mean, I assume they're going to try to make a move, but if they don't, maybe Wisenhunt does get the promotion.
Yeah, the only thing with Wisenhunt, Gary, is I think he's ready to pitch in the big leagues. He's got a lot of minor league innings. He's very talented, but he had a great first 2 months. But he has not pitched great in June. What? Listen, it's the PCL or whatever they call it now. Anything can happen, right? Not an easy place to pitch, but yeah, you know what? He's not pitching as well now as he was, the first 2 months. Whether that's an issue or not, to calling him up, that I don't know. But they do have him, and Carson Seymour's done a good job. Big, strong right-hander down there, so they have a little bit of depth down there. So no, I don't think that's a crazy idea, because Birdsong, he has not looked as sharp as he did last year, or as sharp as he was out of the bullpen. So I think they will watch that very closely, guys. I do, and see how he looks in the next couple starts. And listen, I mean, this is this is kind of crunch time. I mean, this is the big leagues. You're in a pennant race. You got to perform, and if you don't, we got to make a move.
So are we end of the year, not World Series or anything like that? Are we going to be happy?
I'm going to say, and again, I try not to be a homer, because I don't want to do that. I do think once they get their team back, I think the Chapman thing, you get him in there, and I know they're excited about putting Casey Schmidt at second base. Casey looks better. We don't know what he's going to turn up, but he does look better. He got hit in the hand last night. He is okay. He's not going on the injured list. He may miss a day or two, but I think they feel like if they can get Chapman back, play Schmidt at second, and now your lineup's a little bit longer. Maybe with Schmidt hitting down, maybe you get a little more production from the back of those last three spots in the lineup. If you start getting some help from the bottom, now Devers in the second spot gets more opportunities. And, so I think I can't judge this offense until they get that group together and they play together for a while. I know Bob's jonesing to get these guys together, but, you got to wait for Chapman, and then see where you slot guys. But so I think they still have an opportunity to be a little bit better offensively.
All right. And lastly,
so yes,
how do we support you? Tell us about your channel again, so everybody could subscribe to your channel.
Sure. You know what? And I appreciate, Gary. You've been awesome. But it's just go to YouTube and type in the Glen Kuiper Show All Giants. It'll come up. We do a live show. I'm doing one tonight. Like I said, at about 10 o'clock your time, if you guys want to check it out and see what it's about. And so, we're getting subscribers, and the viewership has been, it's really actually caught me off guard, how much people are watching. So that's exciting. And you know what? We're going to start getting some sponsors for it real soon. But it's just fun. I really want to concentrate on the Giants. It's the team I know best. I know people that I can get on as guests, so we have a lot of fun. I would love to have all you guys to tune in, and get you updated from the West Coast on the San Francisco Giants.
All right, guys. Guys and gals, why don't we give it up to Glen Kuiper? Glen, it's fabulous.
Thank you.
Really enjoyable. And speaking, on behalf of Glen, his show is terrific. You really should subscribe to it. It'll be worth your time and while. So
great. Thanks, Gary.
Let's all we'll meet. We'll see each other in 2 weeks. Happy 4th of July to everybody, and maybe the Giants can get out of their funk. Have a great week. I'm gonna hang out here if anybody wants to talk Giant baseball. But until then, I'm gonna shut the recording off. Glen, again, thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great show tonight.
All right, see you guys.
Gary, can I ask Glen? Tell him what happened at the William Penn Hotel with Dwayne.
If he wants to hang on for that, as long as it's quick.
Okay. Well, in 2017, I went with the Giants vacation
Gary, make
group.
sure the recording is off. This may be issues,
Don't worry about it there. In 2017, I went to with the Giants vacation group to see a series against the Pirates.
Okay.
And we were at the William Penn Hotel celebrating their 101st anniversary. And Dwayne was there with two Giant relief pitchers on the podium for a brunch.
Okay.
And so when it came time for me to ask a question, I asked Dwayne, well, I really, the thing I miss the most about, and you touched on this earlier, the thing I miss most about baseball is the complete game. And there were two pitchers with similar last names that were relievers with the Giants on the podium with Dwayne. And I said, you know, I really missed a complete game, and I miss small ball, you know, like bunting when the situation calls for it, when your team is not scoring a lot of runs. And Dwayne said to me, "Are you trying to put these relievers out of business?"
Yeah. You be careful. Be careful. Know your audience. Come on.
Yeah. So the thing is, the way, as you mentioned, with the bullpen game, you know, like, how do you feel about that? Should you train, you know, like starters to go longer and rely less on the bullpen? How do you feel about that?
Well, I do think there's been for whatever analytics or whatever, I think it has taken at the minor league level, you know, it's forced, teams are more careful now with young starters. I don't know that that's the right way to go about it, but I think you're going to see it maybe start to turn a little bit back the other way, which you would like to see, where maybe the minor leagues, and I know the Giants are doing it, they're going to start saying, wait a minute, we're being too careful with these kids. Let's let them pitch. Let's let them pitch a little bit deeper into games at the minor league level. So when they get to the big leagues, they can go 7 innings and not 5. And I know Buster has felt that way. And I know the people that work with him feel that way. You may not see it right away, but I do know at the minor league level now, starting this year, the Giants are trying to change this a little bit and get these kids working deeper into games at the minor league level. And that'll show up in a year or two, you know, when these kids hopefully get to the big leagues. So, but it's got to be an organizational thing. You know, you have to start this in rookie league or A ball, and get these kids to, you know, it's okay to throw 80 pitches. It's okay to get to 90, get to 100 pitches, as opposed to what a lot of teams have been doing and maybe are still doing. You know, you get a young pitcher, you say, oh, I have 40 pitches. Okay, you're only going to throw 40 pitches to start for the first month. And then we'll go to 6. Well, that, you know, that's fine, but you're not really teaching a kid to get deeper into games. So I do think the Giants are trying to change that philosophy. So hopefully.
I hope so.
Yeah.
All right,
Thank you.
Glenn, get out of here while you can, okay?
All right. See you guys. Appreciate everything. Thanks, Gary.
All right. Bye-bye now.